Not for that kind of space. We don't. I think, and this is an area that I know fairly well from my practice. I know the kind of businesses that are attracted there. It becomes a magnet for other companies. It becomes a magnet for startups. It becomes a magnet for entrepreneurs. That's where one of the incubators are. And I can tell you firsthand that coming out of those incubators are job-creating companies that will stay in Tucson and grow in Tucson and ultimately become the next Ventana Medical or the next Burr Brown.
Hey, Gary, you had something?
Yeah, the idea that these things were packaged in any manner that you all will find logical is, I find fanciful. For instance, have any of you ever been to San Javier?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we've got a very, I think, a good program in there. $2.5 million to redo the facade on one of the sides. It's buried under $95 million of open space. Okay? That's the way it's packaged. So if you like San Javier and you think that's an important project, you've got to buy into the open space, which maybe you think is great, but maybe you go, it's like a glass of milk. 1 a day is okay, but 12 a day isn't what I need to do, and we've been buying a lot of open space. We have what's called I think it's the Southwest Arizona Regional Orientation Center. That was first presented to the Bond Advisory Committee as a visitor center. I think it's totally in the age of TripAdvisor, etc. We have a tourism category. And if you read the description, you'll see there's a lot of tourism stuff in there. It's not in tourism. It's under economic development for $18 million at $600 a foot, built on a landfill, possibly in a floodplain. Now, what could go wrong? And that's $18 million. And no one anymore, well, I've used the visitor center once. I was going in New Orleans, and I needed to use the restroom because I'd been up on that elevated road for a while. I've used them at sites, Gettysburg, etc. But for a city, in this day and age, it's unbelievable we're putting this in here.
So this is designed for people who are coming to Tucson who say, gosh, I wonder what there is to do here. The expectation is that they would go to the visitors.
How many jobs are we going to create? It's under economic development by having this visitor center, which also becomes offices for a group that's now renting up in Oro Valley.
There's 20,000 people in this community employed directly by the tourism industry. And Gary, let me suggest this. Almost any day of the week, go down to La Placida, where the current visitor center is, and see how many people are there. It's normally jam-packed.
So we could have done one for
This will
$5
be
million.
right off of I-10. Not only will it attract tourists who fly here, but it will attract people who are driving on I-10, our major arterial that bisects this community.
Okay, Chris, we have a question back there.
I understand bonds for parks and libraries. I don't understand for roads. I have 3 questions. 1, what are other counties doing about the roads? 2, why is this not coming out of general revenues, coming out of sales taxes, coming out of gas tax? And 3, are we letting the state off the hook by doing maintenance on the roads?
I'd be happy to try to answer some of that. Pima County gets, and all counties and all municipalities get HERF dollars from the state. It's highway user revenue funds, it's state shared revenues, money that comes from gasoline taxes and your vehicle license, all go to the state, and then the state divvies it back out. Pima County gets approximately a little over $50 million a year in HERF revenues. The city of Tucson gets some, the town of Shearer, all the municipalities. Pima County is unique, as far as I know, that most counties take their HERF dollars and put it straight to road maintenance. Pima County takes it and puts it into their general fund and uses it to fund their Department of Transportation staffing requirements and salaries and whatnot. And part of it, 19 million of it, goes toward paying off part of the RTA bonds from, I believe, 1996 or 97. So the $50 million is eaten up, and virtually none of it goes actually to the roads like most counties do. Now it goes back to Chuck Huckleberry and Pima County, and even our county supervisor here for Green Valley, Ray Carroll, who as one of the arguments on Proposition 425 dealing with the roads, he's got a letter for Prop 25, and in it he says, Pima County has by far the largest number of residents living outside of incorporated cities in the state, many more than unincorporated Maricopa County, requiring it to supply urban programs dealt off elsewhere to cities and towns. So that tells you the mentality coming out of Pima County is that they want to treat the county like it's a municipality. I live in Green Valley, I live in the county. If I wanted municipal services, I could move to Sahuarita or Tucson or any other incorporated town. But the dollars coming from the state that they should go straight to roads does not go.
Yeah, Randy, but I think Green Valley is an urbanized area when it comes to your roads and your street system. It's certainly not.
And the county could make that a priority out of their $1.17 or $1.12 billion budget if they wanted to make roads a priority, and they have failed. Now, Ray Carroll's been down here with Chuck Huckleberry. They've talked about it. Ray Carroll has mentioned at county, at the Green Valley Coordinating Council meetings, that he doesn't represent the business community. He represents rooftops. And they have talked about the roads, and they sound magnanimous when they put $5 million, they take $5 million out of the general fund to say, we're going to help take care of roads. That's $1 million per supervisor district. That doesn't go anywhere. So
Chris, come on.
it needs to be prioritized by the county.
Okay, have any of you seen any reliable polling on this, which way the people are leaning, or is any being done?
Yeah, I don't believe in polling, not in an election like this. I think the truth will come out on election day.
On November 4th or 5th, whenever the county finishes tallying.
I hope it's not.
I'm Louise Hirsch, and I've lived here for 15 years. We pay taxes, we live in Green Valley, we pay our bills, we have paid off our home, and I want to know how many of the former bonds have been satisfied. Because I heard you say something about 1997, and they still haven't paid that off, and we should write more bonds to raise our taxes. Our house has devalued in half since '08. And I'm going to live there another 10 years. We'll never get it back.
Okay, just before they answer, just understand the 97 bonds, they aren't all sold that year. They're sold over many years. These will be sold over 12 years as the projects roll out. So does someone want to take that question?
Well, as I said at the beginning, and that's why it seems a little confusing when you see two different numbers about what this is going to cost you.
Yeah.
I think that confusion is a little unnecessary. They could have put an amortization schedule in there on this average thing, showing you what it would cost every year. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'm at the stage of life where if in about 30 seconds someone can't explain to me what something's going to cost, I say thank you very much. Please don't call again. Your secondary tax is paying off the current bonds. If these aren't passed, that will continue to go down, maybe not next year, but starting after next year, that number will go down every year because those bonds are being paid off. So if this doesn't pass, at least your secondary piece. Now, your primary is a different story. It went up this year, your library went up, and that's not what we're talking about here. For the bond payback, it's the secondary. And by the way, there's also O&M that's going to be attached, operating and maintenance, that's going to be attached to these if they pass. They're estimating, I think it's low, but I'll use their numbers, 12.6 countywide. The county's portion of that's going to be 6.1 million. Now that comes out of your primary, okay? That's not out of the secondary because that's operating these facilities as they come on. So that's another thing to think about. When I brought it up to staff, they said, oh, you know, for $1 billion, that won't be any problem. And I'm thinking, well, why don't you just put that towards fixing the roads today instead of worrying about, instead of telling me it's no problem to do the O&M in the future. So that, I hope that answers your question. It will go down if these don't pass the secondary. The primary, different story. Went up this year, probably will keep going.
Larry, Sahuarita would get a branch library out of this if it passed, but earlier this year the county considered closing 4 libraries to save some money. Why build more if we can't afford what we have?
I think it's a matter of location. Where's the demand? And I wasn't involved in that discussion, but it's my understanding that the ones that were being viewed as possible closures were ones that there just wasn't the demand, whereas in Sahuarita, there's a high demand.
But they were closed because, or they were being considered for closure because we needed to save money, not because people weren't using them, although they were the lowest use out there. The fact is we were closing because we needed to save money.
Well, but I think that the demand couldn't justify the cost, whereas what the voters will be voting upon, we're talking about very high demand, highly utilized libraries in the community.
But we do still have libraries here that we can't afford. I mean, that came out this year. Is that accurate?
I believe they found a way to keep those libraries open.
Dan, that brings up one other point. The chamber took position in opposition to 4 of the bond packages. One of them had a YMCA swimming pool facility in the town of Sahuarita. One of the concerns that came up was that the town of Sahuarita would most likely be on the hook for some of the maintenance and operations of that. And it hadn't been fully implemented, or the negotiations hadn't been completed, and yet the project is on here for construction. And I forget what the total was, $14 million?
Yes.
Yeah.
Something in that neighborhood. So when folks from the town of Sahuarita were sitting in on these meetings, said, well, yeah, we haven't negotiated that all yet. It sounds similar to the county working out a deal with the city of Tucson on a new courthouse, and at the end of the day, finding out that the city of Tucson, well, we never finished negotiations, we don't have the money, the county's on the hook for the whole thing. So these are some questions, certainly, and a reason that the Chamber of Commerce, who represents about 550 businesses here in this community,
Okay. Chris, go
are
ahead.
in opposition.
Hi, I'm Jerry Bellinger. I very much appreciate this discussion. I have just one question. Oh, stand up. Takes longer than it used to. Okay. One of the items is acquisition of land for Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. Fine. There is something called federal eminent domain. That's a federal facility. If they need the land, they can acquire it in a snap. Then they have to pay fair market value. But why would the county go on the hook when the federal facility can exercise federal law under eminent domain? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jerry.
Let me respond to that if I might. Davis-Monthan is a major economic driver in this county, and its neck is on the chopping block. The Congress will be looking very closely at closing bases, and it would have a disastrous impact on our economy if they were ever to close Davis-Monthan. So the $5 million was included in there in an effort to convince the federal government that it doesn't have to go out and use federal eminent domain to buy projects, that the community is stepping forward to support that mission and keep Davis-Monthan here and the thousands and thousands of people that it employs.
So it's an incentive in a sense.
It's an incentive to keep the base open.
But what he said is accurate.
As-
If they wanted it, they could go get it.
I suppose, yes, I would assume that's the case.
Okay.
Which also might be a reason to close Davis-Monthan.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Susan Show, and there were just some things that I noticed that I would like to respond to as well. I hear a lot of folks being concerned about being on a fixed income and those who have low wages and how the bonds might impact them.